Welcome home, guys. The other day I was scrolling when I got a nostalgic TikTok recommended to me, and usually these involve reminiscing on childhood trends, but this one was different. This particular TikTok was nostalgic for the year 2024. So yeah, like a year ago. And that really made me think, Gen Z isn't just over-consuming matcha and Labubus. We're literally over-consuming our memories. In today's day and age, nostalgia is a prime marketing tool. It's used as a way to sell tickets, get views, and it's one of the easiest ways to make an audience feel something. Decades have always been compared, like the 70s to the 80s, and I guess 2016 to 2026 eventually. But then somewhere along the line, it didn't take decades for people to start feeling nostalgic. It then only took a couple of years, and then those years became months. And now the internet is nostalgic for things that happened like yesterday. But why? Why do we miss moments that just happened like 2 to 5 years ago? How do trends play a part on how we interpret eras? Is nostalgia bait another manner of overconsumption? And are we going to be okay? Well, I don't know. Don't look at me. I don't know. You see, when I see a TikTok being nostalgic for the year 2023, it kind of freaks me out. I mean, it almost makes time move even faster, and that's actually scary as shit. And I really think that started when nostalgia bait TikToks for quarantine started appearing everywhere. By the way, TikTok is ground zero for a lot of these micro trends. And if you don't know what nostalgia bait is, let me explain. You have nostalgia, a sentimental longing or wistful affection for the past, and you have bait, as in a gotcha. You put those two together and it's just content that is primarily made for you to feel nostalgic. Very self-explanatory, guys. I feel like these comments from this video are a pretty good example of what I'm talking about. They're lamenting a year that at the past was just seen as a tedious and just a tragic year, but now is remembered fondly, at least the parts that made 2020 feel like 2020. Games, trends, and overall pop culture. Things that were celebrated back then, not as popular now, but somehow still give us that fuzzy feeling on the inside when we think back to those days. And honestly, is that a good thing? I'm really not too sure. And we'll talk about that more later. But first, 2020 might have started the nostalgia bait trend for the 20s, but it didn't stop there. With every year after that having viral TikToks of things that made that year popular, like Stranger Things in 2022 or Ice Spice's Peak in 2023. And this all makes me wonder, is nostalgia still nostalgia if you don't let it marinate for a while? To be fair though, with trends and pop culture evolving so quickly at all times, it's a lot easier to be nostalgic for trends that happened not that long ago, because trends just don't last long. Like, they're barely here for me to even enjoy before everyone moves on to the next. And because of that, memes that were just popular 7 months ago are already being missed. I mentioned earlier that I wasn't too sure if the rise of 2020's nostalgia is a good thing. And that made me think, if we're so nostalgic for like the last 2 to 5 years and even beyond, what does that say for life as we know it right now? So is life right now so bad that 2020 and the feeling of the earth standing still is more comforting than the reality we're living in right now? Possibly. I mean, since 2020, the world hasn't necessarily been sunshine and rainbows. And the older you get, the more you feel the impact of the outside world. So it would make sense why people would find comfort in the past. And I feel like TikTok and the internet in general does a really good job at keeping you in that state of escapism. Because once you like one TikTok being nostalgic for fall 2022, expect a flood of different seasons from different years showing up on your feed. TikTok, of course, has a majority of a younger demographic, and with nostalgia bait TikToks doing so well on there, it does make you wonder, why are people feeling so nostalgic so soon? Do you want a hint? It's that damn phone. Because it's not just TikTok, right? It's literally built in the thing that we carry around all day. Reminders of how life was 1 year ago, or a collage with Hallmark music playing showing up on your photo gallery. It makes me wonder how our relationship with nostalgia will grow as we age, especially as technology keeps growing. Like, when I'm old as crap, am I going to be depressed because I keep getting reminded of how beautiful I used to be, how smooth my skin was, and in 8K out of all things? Oh God, probably. A quick Google search will tell you that Gen Z and millennials, aka younger people, not only see nostalgia as a way of escapism, but also as a way to connect with others through a mutual feeling. And that's only amplified with videos on the internet. They're basically like digital time capsules. And since people now have access to what other generations lived through and enjoyed right in the palm of their hand, whether that be the pandemic or even an earlier year like 2016, it makes it easier to connect to what it felt like back then. And I feel like that longing for a comforting time is very easy to blame on social media and how the algorithm works, but it can also be pointed at at real world problems and how they impacted folks throughout the years and even now at the very moment. Because if the moment now is great, then there's really no reason to long for better times. But what the hell even is better times? I guess better times is different for everyone. Like, to some it's quarantine, and while to others it's the complete opposite for obvious reasons. Now, this is very much my made up science and theory powered through Google. I think it comes down to nostalgia being a way to cope for whatever this timeline that we're living in right now is. Call it hell, if you will. And because of the way that social media forever immortalizes old memes and trends and just culture in general, it makes it much easier to revisit those time capsules and just the overall vibes that represented that time, especially if that time is associated with a good memory of yours. And since trends and culture definitely play a huge part on what defines an era, they're almost like benchmarks in time, you know? Like, when we see Among Us, you think of 2020, and when we think of 2025, well. Since trends act as time benchmarks for pop culture, I feel like nostalgia is a feeling that will continue to be felt sooner than later, and it's already happening. The other day I was scrolling on Reddit when people online were saying that nostalgia was a feeling that was usually felt in their 30s, and this other post was talking about how surprised they were that young people are feeling nostalgia much sooner. And I feel like this phenomenon is going to continue growing, especially with how these algorithms work, feeding this loop of having infinite trends to look back on through TikTok edits mostly.
Bro, come over here. Check out my new shoes. They're the brand new.
So finally, is this a bad thing? Looking back at times that were memorable or funny isn't necessarily terrible. To the point where it becomes overconsumption, I think it becomes odd. The fact that 2020's nostalgia is on the rise is not only a great recession indicator, but also a sign of just how much nostalgia is being consumed by audiences right now. The nostalgia for recent memories proves that fuzzy feeling we get when we see something like that is in high demand. And even marketing companies are aware of this, obviously. It kind of explains why movies, TV shows, and other forms of media rely on nostalgia to sell tickets. And it works. Hence why we keep seeing the same IP over and over and over again. And it will continue working because the audience eats it up. So why are we so obsessed with nostalgia? Well, because the very nature of us wanting to escape reality, and also reality just not being that great right now. I think nostalgia is the perfect thing to find comfort in. And with how social media works right now, it only accelerates how fast young people get exposed to that feeling. Especially with anxiety and depression being so common amongst young people nowadays, it makes sense why people would find comfort in the past. Not to mention that we can look back at better times whenever we want, whatever better times is for you. Or it's not that deep. Okay, fine, it's not that deep. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys later.